You're tuned in to the Binge It Babe podcast with your host, me, Candace Estelle. All right, babes, let's get binging. All right, hello, babes. We are doing part 2 of our supernatural, super exciting 3-part episode. And I've got a nice little bunker meal here that is 3 Reese's and a beef jerky with a beer. Now, I'm not a huge drinker, so it's a root beer for me. Let's get started. So, we've left off of season 5, right? Eric Kripke was like, "This is the end for me. Goodbye forever. I'm gone." And then the CW is like, "No, please, resurrect." And here we go. It's season 6. Sam is in the pit. Lucifer's in the pit, Michael's in the pit, Adam's in the pit. Now, is that 4 people in the pit? That's a lot of bodies. No, don't forget that Lucifer is in Sam's body and Michael is in Adam's body. Also, don't forget that at the end of season 5, Dean is healed by Cass, who got murdered, and then comes back to life, and Cass goes, "I'm pretty sure that God did this." And you think, wow, you a G. And then Cass cures Bobby. Now, something I may have forgotten to touch on because that was my 3rd time doing that episode is that Crowley has Bobby's soul in a contract. And with that contract, he was like, "Well, I'm not giving the soul back, right? Like until I don't need this insurance policy anymore." And so that's pretty important for the beginning of season 6 is that Crowley has Bobby's soul in a contract. And I do believe that Crowley also gave Bobby back his ability to walk, which I think is really lovely. And it's one of those first little innuendos that we get where, yeah, Crowley's a demon, king of the crossroads, king of hell, whatever his title is, but he's also pretty chill. And he's one of my favorite anti-heroes of the show. I also stated in the last episode, either in the one that actually will come out or one of the other many failed attempts where I have eaten way too much food for it, and that is that I wasn't into this show when I first started watching it. I actually didn't want to watch the show necessarily, not because the content was something I wouldn't enjoy, because I do love supernatural things and I really enjoy that world, but just because 15 seasons is like, it's overwhelming. It's the reason I have not and probably, hopefully, never will see Grey's Anatomy. These shows are going on for so long, and it does feel a little bit like, and there are normal people in the world, right? I'm pretty sure they're called neurotypicals. And they could be like, "Oh, well, you just watch an episode here and an episode there, and you can intersperse it with other things that you're watching as you go along." And I just think, you can? Are you sure about that? You sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure I spent every waking moment where the TV was able to be on watching Supernatural for 6 straight weeks because I'm a completionist. And then when I decided, oh, I'd really love to do that for the podcast to honor cricket because she loves that and I love cricket. And so then I decided to do it, but I thought I probably need to watch it again to make sure I don't forget things, to make sure I pick up stuff. Let me tell you, that was another 6 weeks. And that is me watching Supernatural on my phone and then to the TV and then back to my phone in between walking places, on the train, in, my living room while I'm cooking dinner, while I'm taking a shower. Do you know how hard it is to focus on Supernatural while I am trying to clean my bean? It's not so easy. So it's a lot of commitment to watch these shows, especially when you're trying to watch them and also not necessarily deconstruct them, but kind of relive them for whoever listens to me. And I wouldn't say I've done like a fantastic job so far with the first episode because I have looked at it and I'm like, oh crap, I maybe forgot to say that. Like Crowley having Bobby's legs. That's kind of important, right? or I'm sure I'll forget loads of stuff for episode 2, which we're doing seasons 6 through 10. Um, but then I realized, you know what? It's cool. I'm a human being. It's all right if I miss stuff, if it's messed up a little bit, if I can't get it perfect, if I say the wrong thing, because you guys can tell me about it. I can do another episode in the future where I recap maybe my favorite supernatural moments overall, or I just redo supernatural, or not just with supernatural, but with any episode I do. So I've decided perfection. I'm just going to do it for fun because that's why I wanted to do it anyway. That and I like to eat. So, oh my god, beef jerky is chewy. Okay. Okay. Also, I have a condition that I think is hereditary where as I've gotten older, it seems like my esophagus has gotten smaller and so I start choking on my food a little more often. It's not as bad when I'm not so stressed, but I think like being on the camera, having that perfectionism feeling, even though I know I won't be perfect and honestly I don't care about perfectionism, and then part of my brain is like, "But don't you? Don't you care about everything being exactly right?" And then I am like, "Yes, I do." Oh, that fly. Oh my god. Um, and so I think it stresses me out a little bit, and every time I've tried to eat while I'm talking, which you shouldn't do, I'm a lady, um, yeah, I kind of choke a little bit. So, uh, this isn't live, but hopefully I live long enough to start doing these live on Twitch or something and TikTok, and then if I choke, you guys can see it happen. And then you can watch me die on camera, which is morbid, but at least we'll know what happened, right? And hopefully someone will know me and know where I am, and you'll find the body and you'll take care of my babies because the babies are most important. Okay, let's go. Let's go back to just the last one. No, okay, all episodes. I forget how this works. So I do have notes still, but I noticed that the notes were kind of making it harder for me to be, rolling around off of the cuff. Here we go. And so I still have some notes, but I did an even crummier job of taking notes. And I think that that'll be good for me because then I kind of have to like focus episode by episode. So season 6's Big Bad is it's Crowley, but it's also Sam, but it's also Samuel, and I believe at one point it's Eve? Is it Eve at one point? Okay, it's Raphael. So, kind of. I don't feel like Raphael is a big bad either, especially since we only see them maybe twice. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with it's Eve, it's Raphael, it's Samuel, and it's Sam. I'd say they're all big bads for this season, which is kind of good because seasons 1 through 5 really had that ramp up, right? Like season 1's big bad is the yellow-eyed demon, who is Azazel. I don't even know if we know his name in any of the first season. And then season two's big bad, also Azazel. And then season three's big bad, Azazel still? Oh my god. Have I seen this show? Yes, I have. I've seen this show. Season three's Big Bad. No, because Azazel is gone at this point. Yeah. Okay, season three's Big Bad is Lilith. Season four's Big Bad, Lilith. Season five's Big Bad, Lucifer. So that is like, right? You go Prince of Hell, then you go OG Demon, then you go Lucifer. So that is a ramp up. And that's perfect when you think about the fact that the show was supposed to end after season 5. But now we've got season 6, and season 6, it's like, how do you top Lucifer? And we will talk about that later. But we're not talking about it now because that's why I think it really works that there's no real big bad for season 6. It's Raphael sucks, Sam sucks in the beginning, Samuel sucks throughout. I never like him. Um, Eve, I kind of like her, but she sucks. Crowley, love Crowley, but he sucks, especially in this episode or in this season. And then season 7, we have the Leviathan. I'll hold my horses. I'll wait to get there, but I'm letting you know right now that not impressed. Okay, here we go. So season 6 opens and Sam is out of hell, and you think, wow, that's a really crazy thing to continue to happen to these Winchesters. Hell can't hold them, can it? And I'm just wondering who gripped Sam tight and ripped him from perdition, right? Am I right? Who knows? Honestly, not even me because I don't remember. And holy crap, I legitimately don't remember. I'll remember later and I'll probably scream it in the microphone, or I'll remember when I'm not filming and I'll scream it into my shower head. Okay, whatever. Sam is out of hell and he has joined forces with Samuel, who, if we don't remember, was killed by Azazel in like 1973 when Dean goes back in time the first time. And it is also his maternal grandfather, Dean and Sam's maternal grandfather. So it's Mary's daddy-o. We also need to remember that Mary grew up in the hunter life. Oh my God, I have to burp because this is soda. So, no, it won't come out now. Oh my gosh. Well, heads up, listeners, that's going to happen sometime soon, but maybe not soon enough. Okay. So this episode, Sam finally shows up to where Dean is. Let's not forget that Dean professed his love to his one night stand from almost a decade ago. And she was just like, oh, yeah, that's a totally stable way to behave. Come live with me and my child that's not yours. And so that's how that ended. And I know that they were like, let's give Dean a happy ending. And I'm all for giving Dean a happy ending. I just think they should have fleshed it out way harder. Lisa's someone he dated for a little while and then he had to leave because of the hunting. Anything like that. You know, she could have gotten pregnant at the end of their tryst, and that is why she has the kid around the same age. Or, you know, she gets pregnant by someone she sleeps with after Dean to get over Dean. Women are allowed to do that too, you know. I personally have never done that because you know, I don't like sharing my body with strangers, but I also don't judge anyone who chooses to live that life really, unless you're leading someone on or hurting them. Different conversation. I'm not going to get distracted by how I feel about things like that. Okay, moving on. I just feel like they needed to flesh that out more. But here we are. It's season 6. It's a year down the road that Sam's been in hell, and Dean is with Lisa and Ben, which is just bananas to me. It's bananas, but I have to suspend my disbelief and accept it. Okay, fine. This is a totally normal way for things to go. Sure. And then we find out that Sam is an asshole this season. And I like it for the most part. But we find out that he has been outside of hell for like the whole time. Like he basically spent no time in hell. He went down there and immediately came back up and was living his best life. Um, which is kind of crummy if you think about it because he never goes to see Dean. And his excuse is, well, Dean, you finally had the life you wanted. And I'm hunting, I'm with my grandfather, and, you know, I just wanted you to go live and be happy. And I only came back now because there's a crazy monster situation and I need your help. And then Dean's like, I'm kind of rusty because I've just been doing boring stuff for the last year, you know, like normal human activities. Oh my gosh. Um, If you're not watching me and you're just listening, I continue to feel like I have to burp and it's not happening and it's kind of driving me nuts. Sorry, 1 second. Yes, ma'am. You need my attention? You yelled for me? Okay. 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 Aspen is here because she also has opinions. What's your opinion? Okay, understood. Aspen really likes Sam not having a soul because he's more cutthroat and ruthless, and she prefers that because she's a stone cold killer. Yes, apologies, ma'am. I understand that that is your position. Okay, so that's where we're at. And then let's see, episode 2, babies are missing, security, team, bring the baby. Oh, it's a shapeshifter one. That one's really cute because we see a shapeshifter baby, and I find that really adorable. And then we're moving on, and it is the plagues of Moses. Oh, this is one of my favorite episodes. Or not favorite episodes, but this is one of my favorite moments in an episode. And it is when Dean calls for Cass because he needs help. And Cass just appears immediately. And Sam's like, "What the hell? I've been calling you for a year and you haven't answered. What do you like, Dean, more than me?" And Cass, not being good with sarcasm or humanity at all, is just like, my goodness, it finally happened. Is just like, this is awkward, but yes, Dean and I have a special connection. Obviously, I thought that that was the thing. And then Sam's just like, "Oh, whatever." And Dean's like, "Whatever, Cass, can you help us?" And Cass is very busy. He's like, "I'm busy trying to save heaven and I'm fighting Raphael and there's a huge, you know, angel war going on right now. So deal with it on your own." And then he is like, "But by the way, it is the staff of Moses that's causing all of this. So you probably want to go get that." And then we move on to what I'm going to assume is my favorite episode of the season. I'm pretty sure, and that's episode 4. It's Weekend at Bobby's. And this is when Bobby realizes that Crowley is just, he's not giving him his soul back. Like, Crowley is holding on to that deed, like it is the deed to the McMansion. He is not letting that go. And so Bobby is trying to figure out a way around this and he's really stressed about it. And I think what's really beautiful about this episode is that it is our Bobby centric episode, which I desperately wanted, as he is one of my favorite characters. And usually I really hate when episodes do that, when they go and it's a whole episode about a side character. But I like Bobby so much that this was a total win for me. And you get to see him in his relationship with Rufus and how they're kind of fighting. No, ma'am. That's not for kiddies. That's also not for kiddies. You can't drink. You're underage. You're only 12. You can sit on my lap and that's it. Yes. I'll hold your hand. And so we see Bobby's relationship with Rufus. Aspen. Thank you. We see Bobby's relationship with Rufus. We hear the boys calling him. I think my favorite is when he is on the phone with Garth and you don't see Garth, which is kind of unfortunate, but you hear him talking to Garth and he goes, "Well, if that's not an us thing, then you do need to call the FBI." And he hangs up and then the FBI phone that's labeled in the background rings and Bobby answers and he says, "Agent so and so, FBI." And he goes, "No, Garth, you have to call the real FBI," and just hangs up. And this is really where you get to see that Bobby is like the heart of the hunters, of the American hunters in this area. He is the resources, he is all the information that they need. He's who they call when they need to be bailed out. He's who they call when they're like, "How do you deal with this type of monster?" And it's also a little heartbreaking because he's very clearly in the middle of dealing with something incredibly serious. And because everyone's so used to him being the helper, they forget that he also needs help. And that is a beautiful way you know, to remember that just because people are strong in our lives doesn't mean that they don't need help too, you know? So keep that in mind with your friends. Just because they're strong doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out a hand and ask them if they need anything at all because Crowley had his soul. and Bobby needed his soul back. So then we're moving on. And in Weekend at Bobby's, it's towards the end of the episode. He's helped Rufus bury something. He's helped the boys with a weird monster that I don't even remember what it is. And then the boys are like, or I think it's Dean specifically, who's like, why are you acting like you're so busy? Why are you blah, 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 blah? You're being a jerk. We need you. And Bobby lets him have it. And he should. And he's like, how dare you? I do everything for you. I need something. Do you not realize that I need help? And it's hard for me to ask for help, but I need it. And here's what's going on. And the boys, instead of being like, well, they're like, hey, you know what? You're totally right. And then they skedoodle off to Ireland or Scotland, and they find Crowley's bones. And then Bobby calls up Crowley and he's like, hey, bro, ready to give me my soul back? And then Crowley's like, no, dude, keeping that soul. It's my insurance policy. I don't like the way it looks in my hands. And Bobby goes, thought you might say that. Got your bones. You sure you don't want to give me back my soul? And Crowley's like, how dare you? And then Sam and Dean are on the phone and they're like, what a nice little Irish Scottish area mountaintop you're buried on. Fergus MacLeod. And I think that's the first time we find out that his name is Fergus and not Crowley. And I find that wonderful. And then he's like, well, fine. I'll let you have your soul back. And then Bobby's like, don't forget to let me keep my legs. And Crowley's like, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. But you can see that there's respect there. And then Crowley pops up and he takes his bones and he leaves. It's great. I love it. Moving on. Live Free or Twy Hard. Excellent title. Only okay episode. And I'm only saying it's only an okay episode because it's one of those things where it's too convenient. This is an episode where Dean gets bit. He goes to say goodbye to like Lisa and Ben because they've decided they're going to try to make it work while he's hunting. And then he tries to go say goodbye because he's going to, end his days and his own suffering before he turns into a full monster. And he gets a little aggressive with Ben because he's trying to keep him away so he doesn't accidentally feed on him. And Lisa's not okay with that, which is totally fair. And then, of course, Grandpa comes in and he's like, oh, I've got a cure for that. No problem. Well, that's convenient. That's convenient that hasn't popped up in the 6 years that we've been watching it, but all of a sudden, here it is. And so, yep, there is a cure for vampirism. And it's just as convenient as when that cure pops up for werewolfism as well, where I just find it kind of frustrating. Like, either don't have him get bit, but don't change things and be like, oh, as long as you haven't fed and we can do all of this stuff and the stakes, because it lowers the stakes, right? It lowers it. It says this thing that we're super scared of happening, not so scary anymore. It's totally fine. My nose is super itchy. So it's great that there's a cure for being bitten by a vampire, but it's also annoying. Let's see. You can't handle the truth? Oh, this one's rough. This is where we meet Veritas, and it's people who are like just saying they want the truth, and basically they're getting way more than they bargained for to the point where they're all choosing to end their miserable lives. And at one point, Dean asks Sam for the truth, thinking that he'll finally get it because Sam's been creeping him out. And Sam is like, I'm always there for you. Don't worry about it. Because in the episode before, Dean notices that it seems like Sam allows his brother to get bit by a vampire before he stops him. And this is where the concept of alphas comes out, is that Sam allows him to get bit because they're actually hunting the alpha monsters, which is, Daddy Monster, the first one of the lineage for whatever monster we're talking about. And so he allows Dean basically to get hurt so that they can get into the layer easier and get the alpha. So he uses him as bait. And Sam is like, I totally didn't. And Dean's like, I can feel that. I can feel it in my soul. And Sam's like, you're what? Sam doesn't have a soul anymore. And We find that out at the end of this episode, I believe, which is where um it's the truth telling thing. So Dean is like, "Tell me the truth." And Sam's like, "Of course, you're my brother and I love you. I'd never let anything happen to you. I just froze up." And Dean's like, "I guess I have to believe that because he literally cannot lie to me right now, except he can lie because he has no soul. So Veritas cannot be." So then he calls Lisa and he basically wants to apologize for kind of attacking Ben. And Lisa is also under the Veritas thing. So she gives it to him really heavy. I think maybe that was Dean's plan. And her whole thing is like, we're not going to do this. You can't. We're done so. And Dean's like, cool, great, thanks, goodbye. And then they go to fight Veritas. And she goes to like mess with Sam. And it does not work. And she's like, what are you? Are you a monster? You're empty. There's nothing there. Bada bing, bada boom. Sam's not, ain't got no soul. And then we move on from that. And Dean is just like super creeped out by Sam. He was at the beginning of the episode. He started to feel better. Now he's not having it. He doesn't want to be around Sam, but is what it is. Dean also, in the next episode, is now becoming really suspicious of Samuel. So anyone who's named Sam, Dean's not into it right now. And he thinks that Samuel's motives are really weird, but Sam, being soulless, is just like, I guess, seems normal to me. I don't feel anything. I am dead inside. Who cares? And then we move on. Things go kind of south in this episode. I think Meg is here to help us at one point, and then they get trapped, but no, that's a little bit later. Things are just not going well. That's all I'll say because I don't really fully remember this episode. It's not hitting me. All dogs go to heaven. This is where Crowley is being a real jerk face, and he's like, bring me an alpha. I don't know why Crowley sounds like my Jason Statham, but is what it is. I'm not great at accents. And so they're doing like a werewolf hunt, and I think it's also no, it's a skinwalker hunt, but they're walking as puppies and they're getting into people's homes. And I guess if you're bitten by a skinwalker, you can become a skinwalker, which who knew that that's how that worked. Um So they're trying to get the alpha skinwalker via Crowley demanding it. And Crowley's basically torturing the alphas or torturing the monsters to get to the alphas. And we're not sure why yet. And Samuel is going along with it because he was told that he can get his daughter, Mary, back if he does this. Beef jerky is just like a super chewy food to try to eat super fast. I can't do it. I apologize. You're going to have to watch me crunching for a second. Here's that stupid ASMR of like opening erases. Ooh, I bet this is way easier to eat on camera. That's that peanut butter chocolate dopamine hit, y'all. It's so good. Okay. Next episode, I'm moving on because the next one is also one of my favorites of the season. It's stupid and I love it. It's Clap Your Hands If You Believe, episode 9. And this is where the brothers think it might be aliens. And by the way, once again, we have Dean being like, aliens aren't a thing. This is ridiculous. Things are not like that. And it's like, bro, you fight everything. And the other thing you thought was ridiculous, angels. But then angels are here. You also think God's ridiculous, but like just think about that in your brainium. If angels exist, how? Right? If all of the things exist, and then you're like, but aliens? Step too far. Bananas. It's a bananas approach. Now, I will admit, these aren't aliens. These are fairies. You don't really see them for much of the episode, but it is hilarious because they're only abducting firstborn sons. Sam has no soul and therefore no capacity to be understanding or caring in any way. And Dean is losing his mind because Dean gets abducted by the fairies in a field So you do think it's aliens though at this point. And he's on the phone with Sam and he's like, close encounter, close encounter. And Sam's like, of what kind? The first kind? Second kind? Third kind? And he's like, third kind, third kind. And he goes, ooh, careful. If it's the fourth kind, that's where they do the anal probing. And it's just like, bro, come on. Like, he is being abducted right now. Why are you not worried? Anyway, Dean gets abducted. Sam finds his phone and then just goes to the bar and sleeps with some random lady. And Dean shows up and sees Sam with the lady. And he's like, hey, I was a missing person. I called you that I was in trouble and you don't care. And Sam's like, you look fine to me, dude. Which, not a chill way to behave, Sam. Really not chill. Anyway, fast forward. Once you've been abducted by the fairies, you can see all the fairy stuff going around, and they put it together and they get rid of the leprechaun that's in town that's running the fae. It's really silly. It's a silly episode, but I really enjoy the dynamic of just completely soulless Sam and Dean who's panicking, but the thing he's panicking about sounds so silly. So Dean is just explaining what happened, and Sam is just trying not to laugh. And I don't know why I find that hilarious. The next episode, Caged Heat, that's the one where Meg is there and she's trying to ferret out what Crowley is because they are not bros. Because Crowley was not on the Lucifer train and Meg very much so was. And now that Lucifer is gone, Crowley is getting rid of all of the allies. And so Meg is kind of an ally here. And I do not remember. So please in the comments let me know. Why does Meg call Cass Clarence? I don't remember why this happens, but I know it happens and it's like their thing. And I believe this is also the Pizza Man episode. I think this might be Pizza Man. And if you are confused, I would be happy to do it again. It is where Cass is watching Dean's porn, not realizing that it's porn, and he goes, if the pizza man loves the babysitter so much, then why does he spank her? And then Dean's like, hey, you don't watch porn while another man's sitting right next to you. What are you doing? And then Cass kisses Meg. And when he pulls away, he goes, I learned that from the pizza man. And I don't know why. It's so fun. It's so funny to me. Oh, I think I did start the whole episode with a different sentence. Whoops. At the beginning, I was saying how I wasn't really in and I didn't want to watch this show. I watched it for cricket. At this point, though Sam and Dean do things constantly that annoy me, as with most shows, I'm in. Okay? I'm in. And Cass being here, win. So I will say I do enjoy this show. Obviously, I've done it twice. If I didn't like it, I couldn't have done it twice. I probably couldn't have done it the full time once. But I do like it. So I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you, Cricket. All right. So, yeah, this is where we find out about Samuel having made the deal with Crowley to get Mary back. This is where we find out that Samuel is working for Crowley. Crowley is not so chill in this season, so it's a messed up thing to do. And this is also where Dean is like, we got to get your soul back, dude. And Sam is like, I'm cool without it. I don't really care, which makes sense because he doesn't have a soul. What doesn't make sense is that he does some messed up stuff. And it's like, your soul isn't the whole reason you know the difference between right and wrong. It's why you feel the difference between right and wrong. But you still know when something is wrong to do. So why are you doing something wrong? Like, you don't care, so you automatically are going to be kind of evil? Makes no sense to me. Anyway, the next episode, yep. The next episode pisses me the F off. I only said F there instead of so that I didn't have to bleep it. But now I have to bleep it. Okay. Pisses me the F off. Appointment with Samara. It's episode 11 of season 6. We see Tessa again, who's our favorite Reaper. But We also see Sam being an asshole. And once again, here's that the difference between right and wrong thing. Sam does not want his soul back because Cass is like, his soul is still in the box being tortured by Lucifer in hell. We do not want to give him his soul back because it could destroy the Sam that's in front of us. And Dean's like, give him his soul because he's a piece of shit right now. And then Samuel's like, yeah, he's a little creepy. And then Bobby's like, yeah, I'm not a fan either right now. Well, while Dean is trying to make a deal with Death to get him his soul back, Sam is being a and thinks he's got a spell where it can't happen. And all he has to do is kill Bobby. And that little mother tries it. He tries to kill Bobby. Unforgivable. In my opinion, unforgivable. He doesn't have a soul. Sure. He knows the difference between right and wrong. Right? You don't have to feel that. There are, is it sociopaths or psychopaths where they don't feel like standard brains feel, right? And they are able to assimilate because they know the difference between right and wrong. So he knows it. He just does not care. You joking? Unforgivable. He tries to kill Bobby. It doesn't work. Death puts his soul back in and puts a little barrier around it to be like, hey, don't touch that barrier. That's where some creepy crawlies are. Sorry, that pause was weird. I'm bad at eating and talking. It's just, it is what it is. But I'm not going to waste food. Anyway, so he's got his soul, and then he immediately goes into a coma. And it doesn't last very long because he wakes up in the next episode like a virgin. And he doesn't remember anything after having lost his soul. He doesn't know how long he's been out. He doesn't realize he did anything in the last year while he was soulless. It's, clean slate. He remembers jumping in a hole, and that's it. Which is pretty convenient if you ask me, Sammy. And then, yeah, they go on a quest. They save some virgins. Moving on. Next episode, Sammy starts having flashbacks of a case he worked while he was soulless. And so that's where his little brain is starting to itch. And he's like, what are these memories? What is this? And we start seeing that soulless Sam, not good. Like, I understand that without a soul in the way that we're using it, you don't really have morals or ethics, right? There's no left or right because you don't have any feelings to care about anything. But just societally, and also with the fact that you have your memories, you know what is right and what is wrong. So, like, why? But why? Okay? Why do we take it this far? And I feel very passionately about this, and I get very frustrated with this show because they're basically saying without Sam's soul, he didn't have the capacity to not do the wrong thing. That doesn't make any sense. He absolutely had the capacity. Maybe he didn't care as much, but it almost feels like sometimes with his character, he went as hard as he could to not be doing the right thing. It pisses me off, and I'm moving on. We have that mannequin episode that creeps me out. It's also when Ben calls Dean and saying that Lisa's in trouble, and she is not. She's just going on a date, and Ben doesn't want it, and it's sad. Now, on to the very next episode, which is the second highest rated episode of the series. And it's The French Mistake, episode 15. It's got a 9.6. Keep in mind, Swan Song had a 9.7. So 9.6, that's high up there. And this episode, Balthazar, who is an angel that I legitimately forget exists in most of the show. Like, he'll pop up and I'm like, all right. He's Gabriel Light, Is it nice to see him? Sure. Is he as cool? No. I don't have as much love for him. It is what it is. Balthazar sends them both into an alternate universe, Sam and Dean, to save him from being attacked by Raphael because the Raphael Cass situation is getting a little heated. And so they're in an alternate universe, and in this alternate universe, it's just our universe. And I loved it. It's just so silly. I think at one point they're on a Gilmore Girls set. Lost my mind at that, right? We meet Genevieve Cortese, who I believe at this point is now Genevieve Padalecki. And Dean is like, "What are you doing living with her?" And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Why is Ruby in your house, man?" And she's like, "Ruby, funny." And then, you know, you see how nice their houses are. I don't know if that's the real houses or anything, but they're also getting along, and there's a whole bunch of innuendo on set that they don't even talk to each other IRL, which I think is very funny. I don't know why I said IRL as if I am 15 in real life. Um, and so I found that just really, it's kitschy and it's goofy, and I enjoy it. And apparently, most everyone did because, like I said, it's the second highest rated episode of the series. Um, so we get all these fun callbacks to characters and events and things going on through the lens of it just being a TV show, which is just a fun little meta game that we're playing. I think my favorite part is when Misha Collins comes on, and he is Misha Collins, but they're talking to him as he's Cass. And so he does his monologue for them, and they're like, okay. And then the monologue is exactly what happened. Balthazar puts them in an alternate universe to keep them safe from Raphael. And they're like, okay. And then Misha's like, did I do a good job? I think I'm a part of the team now. And it's so cute. It's so cute. And it's also a brilliant way for the writers to have given us the information we needed without really taking us out of it or having Cass there to help because Cass might have been powerful enough to undo it. So it's fun. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I do believe Eve is out now at this point. She gets erupted out of volcano, like dragon mommy style. It's pretty nutso. And this episode, and then there were none, season 6, episode 16, is when Sam, Dean, Bobby, and Rufus, who I adore, they run into the Campbell clan, so the cousins and Samuel. And this is where we realize that Eve is making fresh monsters. She's trying to make something new that's got, fun new quirks. And those fun new quirks is the conworm. And it's that disgusting little thing, and it gets in you and it leaves the little ectoplasm when it's gone. And they just infighting, right? Like Samuel has it at one point. I think Bobby gets it. And Rufus ends up dying this episode. So it's really difficult because he is for sure a great character that I think everyone enjoyed seeing. I love his dynamic with Bobby, that like, I hate you, I love you, best friend, old man kind of situation, that crotchety love. And we lose Rufus, and it's really sad. And the conworm is terrifying. And they don't even know how to deal with it because it's a new monster. And I loved that concept of new monsters. And then the next episode, kind of annoying because in the next episode, um, the timeline is changed because Balthazar messes it up and he saves the Titanic. But the people who survived the Titanic when they weren't supposed to, and all of their progeny end up dying in weird random ways because they shouldn't exist. And so fate is trying to get everything back together, and she's doing it in a really brutal way. Um, Other thing to note, I believe in this episode. Is this episode? Hold on one moment. Okay. I did a huge mess up and I forgot to mention that Ellen and Joe die in season 5. And okay, the reason I forget to mention that in the last episode, so whoopsie doopsie, but if you're watching the second one, it's basically an anthology and it's fine. Who cares? You're not missing anything. Um, is that I feel like they're around for longer. And I think that is something that happened the second time I watched the show because it's so long that I realize the second time that they are gone pretty quick. Introduced in season 2, gone by mid season 5. They're not characters. They're not mainstay characters. They don't last as long as Crowley or Rowena, who's coming up, or even Meg. You know. And I think because I don't know if they're fan favorites. I'm a fan and I really enjoy them. So I've decided they're fan favorites. We love them. So the fact that we don't see them for as much as I realize, I apologize. I thought they died later, but I know that in my heart will go on that Bobby is married to Ellen and Joe is fine and alive, and that's an alternate timeline. And that's why Bobby doesn't want to reset it. And the boys know that they have to. I I just realized that that's because Ellen and Joe are gone already. So I think we need to hang our hats for our women. And also, like, the way they die is incredibly brutal. Joe gets hurt saving Dean. Ellen is not hurt. She just doesn't want to live without her kid. And they create that trap to trap the hellhound and they blow up that building. And I can't believe I missed that it's that episode, but it's season 5, episode 10, Abandon All Hope. And it is when, yeah, they blow up the building. It's the end of the episode. Sam and Dean are able to get away. And the Ellen's holding Joe, and Joe dies before she would have been able to press the detonator, which I think was the writer's way of saying, "Hey, let's not make it that Ellen didn't necessarily have to die, because if Ellen hadn't been there to press the button, it wouldn't have worked." So Joe dies, Ellen's holding her, and she's like, "It's okay, it's okay. You know, you let go, it's fine." And then she presses the button, it explodes. The hellhound, not hellhounding around anymore. And then it's the end of the episode. And it is probably the first episode, I think, in the show where I tear up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the first one where I'm like, "What?" So, there we go. Back to My Heart Will Go On, episode 17 of season 6. And yeah, Baltazar doesn't do the Titanic. I think it's a really annoying timeline. His whole point is that he wants the boys to see how Fate behaves and that she kind of is a jerk. Or maybe that's later. My gosh, there's so much of this show, it's hard to keep things straight. I know I'm wrong about stuff, so please, please correct me. Correct me politely and kindly in the comments, right? Write me back and say, "Hey, you messed this up." I know that this is such a fan favorite show. It's actually one of the reasons I chose it was because there is so much extra fan content, Comic-Con content, bloopers, funny pieces where the fans love this show. And I don't want you guys to mistake me having these, little memory lapses as me not being a fan or not caring. I very much so care. I know this is millions of people's favorite show, their comfort show, which, by the way, go to therapy because this show is dark and I don't know how you could sleep to some of this stuff. But okay, it's your comfort show and you love it and you care about it. And if I'm getting stuff wrong, I'm really sorry. It is not on purpose. So I don't think this is where they meet fate because I think that that doesn't happen for a while. But I can't be sure. I cannot trust myself right now. Let me check. Ah, it is fate in this episode. Yes, it is fate, and Cass is trying to say this is how fate behaves. Okay, so I'm not bananas. It's a lot of show. Okay, not bananas. All right, we're moving on. Episode 18. Obviously, the boys put the timeline back to normal because, the Titanic happens. The next episode 18, Frontierland. Surprise, surprise, we go back in time again. Third time. Third time at this point. We're back in time. And Cass sends Sam and Dean back to get the ashes of a phoenix. I believe that's how you make cold bullets. It's how you do something to kill Eve. Oh yeah, it hurts Eve. Next episode, Sam and Dean meet Eve and she decides to take the body of their mother, which is messed up. Also, I do want to point out in the last episode, Frontierland, Dean could not be happier to get to dress like a cowboy, and that is adorable. Like, he's so happy about it. This is also around the time when the word gank gets used just an exorbitant amount. And I thought it was way more, but I looked it up. They only use it 63 times in the show. And it's never, never said again past season 11. I just find that crazy. Anyway, I remember that because Dean does say gank in Frontierland, and the cowboy he's talking to is just like, what? What does that word mean? So you got that. If you think I'm taking way longer in season 6 than you would have expected, I am. I'm taking way longer, but it's also because season 7, whatever. All right. So we meet Eve. She's like, I'm making these monsters because you're trying to kill my babies. You're killing way too many. There used to be a balance. There's no balance. Tell Crowley he needs to cut it out. Stop killing my monsters. Don't kill my alphas. And that's basically it. Moving on. Then we have a episode where it's Cass centric. I love Cass so much, but I got to be honest with you, I don't really care about this episode or remember it very much. And then the next episode, Let It Bleed. Dean's worst nightmare comes true when a demon kidnaps Ben and Lisa in order to get to him. This sucks. And it is a very controversial choice, in my opinion, where Dean saves them. They got really hurt, and he has their memories erased so that they never remember Dean. And I just think, interesting way to take away someone's free will, but also it keeps them safe. So, catch 22 there. It's really kind of heartbreaking. And then the next episode, that wall that Sam has been fighting against, to keep his memories from being soulless, but also being in the pit away, it comes crumbling down, baby. And it is catastrophic. Dean and Bobby don't know what to do to help him. And this is also when Cass and Raphael finally hit this breaking point. And we find out earlier in the season, but Cass and Crowley are working together. Crowley is being bad. Cass goes to burn his bones. It's the wrong bones. Crowley should have died. He's not dead. And they find out that it's because Cass and Crowley are in cahoots to find a purgatory. Crowley says that it's because he wants the premium real estate that's hell adjacent. Hell adjacent. I can't do this freaking accent. It's hell adjacent. And we don't know why Cass wants it. But I'll tell you why. Cass wants it because souls, be them purgatory or heaven, are power. They're an energy source. So Cass wants to suck up all the souls that are in purgatory. That's where monsters go when they die. And he wants to defeat Raphael this way. And that is exactly what he does. He defeats Raphael that way. However, little asterisk, obliterates Raphael. Crowley does a little dippity dip, leaves real quick. And then he's like, I'm God now. And Dean and Sam are like, hey, you need to chill. And he's like, I'll let you talk to me like that because we used to be friends, but behave yourself. And they're like, what? What? And Cass is like, he's on a power trip. And this power trip leads us into the next season, season 7, where Cass thinks he's God. And he's like obsessed with power. And Sam and Dean are trying to figure out how to get him to chill because they also know he might explode and just destroy the world. And then it is like the next episode where Cass kind of comes back to them and he willingly is giving up all the souls and putting them back in purgatory. But wouldn't you know, some of those souls don't want to go back to purgatory. And those souls are the Leviathan souls, which we found out are like the OG monsters. And they killed too much, so God put them in purgatory. And they're boring. They're boring AF. So boring. Really bored by this season. I'm also very annoyed because we lose Cass for so much of this season. And I remember the first time watching and seeing Cass kind of evaporate in the water and his little trench coat coming up and just going, they better not. And I avoid spoilers like the plague, especially if I haven't seen something. because I don't want things to be ruined for me. And I also love guessing what could happen. And it's cheating if you know what's going to happen. But I had to look it up and just checked. What I did was I checked and I saw where Misha Collins was in the seasons. And then I saw a continuation and I thought, okay, okay. So much of the season, though, he's gone. And the boys are fighting the Leviathans, which they're boring. This is the season where we get a big bad again. So keep in mind, the last big bad we had, Lucifer. Next one, Leviathan. Could it have been cooler? Absolutely. Is it an allegory for corporate greed in America or maybe in the Western world? Absolutely. But is it boring? Absolutely. So over it. They are OG monsters. They use terms like bib yourself, which, by the way, who in purgatory knows what a bib is? If this is pre anything, pre angels, even the Leviathan. Um, and it's where if you're bad and you're not in the right corporate spot, right? If you're not executive and you're bad and your punishment is that you have to eat yourself because that's their thing. They want to eat everything and they want to eat humans and they're figuring out a way to poison us and fatten us up so they can herd us like cattle and eat us and breed us so that they can eat us. It's, just corporate America and farming, and it's boring. It never really captures me. So I'm not really going to discuss the Leviathan as much. I'm going to move on. Uh, the Girl Next Door, I believe this is the episode where it's a kitsune or whatever, where it's Sam's friend. She has to eat brains to survive, so she becomes a mortician, which honestly, wonderful workaround. Good job for you. Yeah, it's a kitsune. Cool. Moving on. So they're friends. They kind of had a crush on each other when they were like teens or tweens. And he lets her live because she kills her mom, who's straight up murdering. And Sam is like, okay, no killing. And she's like, sorry, I had to do it. My son was sick. And then Dean shows up and he goes, there's always going to be an excuse. Pew pew. Kills her anyway. Really messed up. Turns around. His son is there. And here's my thing is if you've got this moral high ground, Dean, where you've decided that the monster can't live at all because it's a monster, then you should have killed the kid. Because the kid is also a kitsune. It's hereditary. So all you are is a jerk. And you're hypocritical. Moving on. Season 7, episode 5 is a pretty fun one. It's Shut Up, Dr. Phil. It's where Sam and Dean end up in the middle of that incredibly old couple. Not old looking, just like I feel like they're hundreds of years old, that are a couple of witches. And it is Spike Marsters, James Marsters, sorry, who plays Spike in Buffy. And he's also Brainiac in Smallville. And his wife, I want to say is Lori Loughlin, but I'm not positive. Charisma. Oh my gosh, Lori Loughlin. It's Charisma Carpenter, who's from Buffy. Okay. So yeah, that's just a silly little funny thing where they're killing people. So that's not so funny. But the way it's put together is really funny. And it's the first time you kind of see witches where they're not good, but they're not all out crazy evil. And like I said, I'm not here for the witch slander that happens in Supernatural. So this is great. The next episode is Leviathan centric. It's the ones that are shapeshifted into Sam and Dean, and they're just killing as many people as they can, so that it's hard for Sam and Dean to go anywhere in the country, basically. The next episode is the one with all the psychics that aren't really psychics, and then they find out that the one girl who was is trying to stop her ghost sister. It is what it is. It's a fine episode. Season 7, Time for a Wedding. That's where Becky is giving Sam love potion and they end up getting married and Dean's like, what the hell is going on? And then he has to fight them. And I feel like this episode has Leslie Odom Jr. as the witch that's giving her the supply. And yeah, he's not a witch. He's a demon. And this is where Crowley comes in and is like, absolutely not. You don't behave this way. because he's allowing the people who he does crossroads deals with to die before the 10 years by like not accidental. It's just like they're dying immediately. And he's like, I'm bringing in contracts. And Crowley's like, that's not the way you do it. And he gets rid of him immediately. Which I think is one of those times where you just kind of are like, good for you, Crowley, you and your bureaucratic love. Um, and then we hit episode 9. They're fighting Leviathan. Dick at the very end of the episode, they're like running out of the building and Dick shoots and we find out pretty quickly because they scream Bobby's name. But then the very next episode, which is Death's Door, we find out that Bobby got shot in the head and he's very close to dying. And the entire episode is just this on the edge of your seats. Is he going to die episode? And he is trying to get away from the Reapers. We get some of his lovely, horrible, traumatizing background with a abusive father and a scared mother. We get to see him, I think, with his wife at one point, and he has to fight his father, and fight that trauma while all his memories are going away as the Reaper tries to come in and get him. And he's fighting really hard to not die. And the last memory he has left is a cherished memory, and it's him and the boys like eating popcorn and watching movies. And I just think that's so sweet and it's lovely. And Bobby wakes up, he gives them a clue of numbers, and then he dies. And we don't know for a long time if he allows the rebirth to take him to heaven or not. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Episode 12, Time After Time. Dean goes back in time again. That's four times so far. So now he's back in 1944. I believe our beautiful Sheriff Jody Mills is in this episode helping out. Yes, Sheriff Jody is here, helping Sam bring Dean back. And surprise, surprise, he comes back and everything's okay. The next episode I found boring. If I have a least favorite season, I think it's season 7. For one, we lose Bobby. Not okay. And the Leviathan are boring. In general, I'm just like, eh. You got that mid-show slump, I guess. This is the Amazons, where they mate with a man and then they have a baby incredibly quickly and then they make the baby kill the dad. Just doesn't feel very fleshed out to me. I don't believe it. It's not worthwhile. And it's kind of sad that Dean has a kid and then she gets killed because she's a monster. Okay. I think the next one I do enjoy a little bit more, and it's episode 14, Plucky Pennywhistle's Magical Menagerie. Yes, Sam is terrified of clowns, and this is not the first time this has come up. And every single time he has to deal with this clown fear, it's just hilarious because Jared Padalecki does such a good job of that, like, tiny way you react to fear where you're just like, and so it's hilarious. It's where they're at that terrifying kids pizza place because I too not a fan of clowns, and the kids with the crummy parents, all of them keep dying, and it's the kids' fears are coming to life, and it's silly, but I just love seeing Sam be scared of clowns. And I get it because clowns are not cool, in my opinion. Um, and also, this is around the same time when we realize that Sam, whose brain was broken, basically, he is seeing Lucifer as like a hallucination that is straight up torturing him, and that's no fun. And he's trying to fight it, and Lucifer's being Lucifer. It's maybe the only time I enjoy seeing Mark Pellegrino's character, Nick. What an interesting flavor combination that was. Okay. I don't recommend having beef jerky in your mouth when you take a drink. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know how to eat on camera. I'm so awkward. I'll get better at it. Anyway, so Nick is just there and he's just like, woo. Sorry, it's Lucifer, but it's Nick's body. He's annoying and he's doing a really good job of messing with Sam, and Sam is trying his best. And Sam's back to having his puppy dog eyes of being like, what have I done with the things that I've done? I have to fix things. This isn't okay. And Dean is loving it. He's like, thank God. I thought you were whiny before, but now I'm so happy that you're back to normal because you used to be terrifying. Yeah, no. No, no. Cursed items where the lady who passed away didn't want to sell her place and all of a sudden she sells it and then she dies immediately, so she never even gets the money from it. And it's just a Leviathan plot where they're taking over towns so that they have their people herds. Um, then the Lucifer thing is starting to get really intense for Sam. And um, Dean is trying to figure out some way to help. This is episode 17. This is episode 17 of this season. This is finally when we find Cass again, although I do believe he thinks his name is Miguel, and he is not helpful, and he has healing powers, so he's still an angel. He just doesn't know who he is, which, how's that happen? You know? All right, so moving on. Cass is back, only kind of. Next episode, episode 18, a favorite of the season, Party on Garth. It is the one where I believe, Japanese spirit is stuck to the Japanese liquor. It's a vengeful spirit, and you can only see it when you're drunk. And it's Garth, Sam, and Dean having to just be wasted trying to hunt. And it's hilarious because Garth doesn't drink. So he has like one drink and he's, giggling. It's hilarious. It's cute. And I love seeing Garth. Um, Bobby is in a haunted house with another woman who gets killed. And then you find out there's a whole bunch of dead bodies in this house. And Sam and Dean are trying to figure out how that works and what's going on and, get to the bottom of it. They obviously do. And they obviously at this point realize that Bobby is a ghost. And he's attached to his flask. And he's kind of just been hanging out with them and trying to help. And this is when they realize that. And they're like, Bobby, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have gone with the Reaper? You're going to turn into a vengeful spirit. And Bobby's like, will not, idiots. Now, season 7, like I said, it's not one of my favorites. But we do get a fan favorite character here. Episode 20 to be exact. We get the lovely Charlie Bradbury in A Girl with a Dungeons and Dragons tattoo. Which, by the way, when she described that tattoo, I thought it sounded dope. So good on her and her beautiful lesbian ways. She is wonderful. I believe she's played by Felicia Jones? Felicia Day? I'm losing my mind. I don't want to look it up. But she is a computer whiz. She's a software engineer. She works at the corporation that Dick Roman, the head Leviathan guy, is working at. And she gets a hard drive that he wants her to crack. And she does crack it and gets all the information from it. Oh, yeah. She gets all the information from it and sees what's going on and kind of freaks out. And then she ends up helping the boys. And then at the end, she's like, I never want to see you again. Thank you. Goodbye. And just another spoiler alert, but we do see her again and it's lovely. So she's great, completely an enjoyable, lovely sunshine character. Next, the boys find the word of God and they can't read it. So they need to find a prophet. But the problem with that is that the Leviathan are also trying to get it. The angels are trying to get it. Everyone, up in arms. And they also, as far as I'm aware, is this where Kevin appears? Let me double check. Yeah, this is where Kevin appears. So they get the word of God, and from that, the new prophet is activated, and it's Kevin Tran, and he is practicing, I believe, for the SATs. So he is a high schooler. He's about to graduate. Heavy overachiever. That freaking fly. Um, so the next There Will Be Blood, um, they find out that they need alpha blood to kill the Leviathan. And they do this by going to the head vampire who they've met before, I believe. And they're just like, hey, give us some blood because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you try to eat any of the humans that the Leviathan have been slowing down, making dumb, with all of their Leviathan food products, it kills you, poisons you right away. And the alpha is like, no, no, that's not the case. And then he realizes it's totally the case. He gives them the blood, but then I think Crowley is also trying to make a play, and Dick is trying to make sure that Crowley can't by being incredibly bureaucratic with the contract that him and Crowley are going between, like no loopholes. So there's a whole bunch going on. Um, and then Bobby's kind of just around being a vengeful spirit. And then the next episode, which is the season finale, they killed the Leviathan. Um, with the help from Cass and Meg. And then they finally are able to be like, okay, Bobby, like you need to let go. And I believe the hole to like purgatory or something is opened up so that the Leviathan go back, or yeah, and Dean gets sucked in. He gets sucked into purgatory and he's gone. So bada bing, bada boom, there we go. And now I'm gonna eat some beef jerky and take a break, and we'll get moving on to season 8. All right, hello and welcome back. We've got 3 more seasons to get through, and I've already been talking for way too long, so let's pump up the jam. All right, season 8. Kevin was taken by Crowley, and Dean's in purgatory, and Sam is an ass, as usual. And Sam doesn't try to save Dean, doesn't try to look for Dean, just goes and decides to have yet another incredibly serious relationship with a girl that we never ever care about. So that's where we're at. It's a year later, and Dean works his little hiney off to get out of purgatory using some weird human portal, and he puts his vampire friend, Dean, who likes to kill everybody, in his arm to bring his spirit out. And then he puts the spirit near the vampire's bones, and we meet Benny. And Benny is like a southern gentleman vampire who's been in purgatory for some time. And Sam, or not Sam, Dean goes and finds Sam. And Sam is just like, Dean? What? And we find out that Sam hasn't helped anybody in the last year, hasn't been hunting, hasn't been in contact with any, just being a real selfish guy, which, you know what, it's fine to take care of yourself sometimes, but it's also a little crummy when the dynamic is always that Dean does whatever he can for you. And the moment Dean's gone, you're just like, well, it is what it is, I guess, and moves on. It's very Sam. Um, Next episode, we are more introduced to Kevin's mom when the boys have to save her from demons, and they have to go get the word of God, which is being auctioned by Plutus, who's the god of greed, apparently. So that's interesting. Then the next episode is when they're trying to track down Kevin still, and Sam and Dean get sidetracked by murders that all of their hearts are being ripped out. And we also get more of an insight as to what Sam was doing the last year, and the dog, and the woman who I don't remember what her name is because she's already gone by the time Sam comes back. Um, the next episode, episode 4, Bitten, it's done in a completely different way. It is once again one of those episodes where it's not Sam and Dean centric. It's actually, for the most part, viewed through the lens of someone's camcorder. And it is where um, someone gets bitten by a werewolf. It's okay. His friend wants to get bitten by a werewolf. He reacts pretty poorly, um, bites the last girl. She leaves the video to be like, look, I killed the guy who went nuts. I lost the love of my life. I'm leaving. Okay. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm going to figure out how to live on animals. I don't want to be a werewolf, but I am one, and goodbye. And that's it. That's that episode. And you do see Sam and Dean fighting werewolves some of the time. And like, coming in from the other footage, and they find the footage at the very end where, that's why we're watching it is, and Sam and Dean are like, I guess we're just gonna let her go, which is one of the first times Dean is kind of, open to it. And then the next episode is Dean being really into his friend Benny, in terms of just being like, yeah, I gotta help Benny. And they go and try to break up the vamp nest of the vampires who turned Benny. And Benny's also convinced that they stole his girl. And then they find out that his girl, like his woman, is totally fine with being taken, loves being a vampire, doesn't care at all. And um, on the other hand, we have Sam, who's just like thinking about how his life was without Dean and being a whiny bitch, basically. And also being incredibly judgmental about Dean and Benny's friendship. And to be fair, it kind of makes sense because how judgmental Dean always is, but two wrongs don't make a right, Sammy. Like, grow up and be like, hey, okay, so from now on, you're going to behave and maybe not kill my friends behind my back after you said that it was fine to leave them. And then Dean could be like, I guess, we'll see. But instead, they don't communicate. They're immature and they're feuding. And Sam takes it out on Benny. He's like, I'm going to get to kill you one day. Good luck. And Benny's just like, okay, dude, what? The next episode is Sam and Dean teaming up with Garth. And Dean is kind of mean to Garth in this episode, which sucks because Garth has basically become the new Bobby. He's using the resources. He's staying at Bobby's house. He's answering the phone call. He's calling people idiot. He's fully taking it on, and Dean is not okay with it. And at one point, Garth is like, hey, we all lost Bobby. Like, you guys were close, but he was everyone's mentor, basically. And it's a sweet moment. Next episode is where Crowley has once again kidnapped Kevin and all of the prophets, like the ones that are coming up. And then Cass, who Dean told Sam doesn't make it out of purgatory, all of a sudden Cass is back. My goodness. All of a sudden Cass is back. And he helps Sam and Dean and they rescue Kevin. And then in the next episode, Cass becomes a hunter. And Sam, once again, thinking about Amelia, who's that, girl that he lost, that he was with, instead of searching for his brother or helping people in hunts or doing anything good. Next episode, Sam and Dean think that Benny might be attacking random people, and then they find out that he's not, and he's innocent, and it's some other guy who's trying to make it look bad, and all Benny is doing is like working at a Cajun restaurant. And this is again where Sam is just like, well, when you do step out of line, I can't wait to kill you. And it's like, bro, you've got an issue because Dean killed Amy, the Kitsune, not because Benny's done anything. You're just jealous because Benny was a better friend to Dean than you were, and get over yourself. Next episode, Torn and Frayed. This is where Dean and Cass try to rescue Samandriel from Crowley. Samandriel's that adorable little angel that, like, we finally see unlocks that weird, like, basically software that angels have. Like, there's no other way to say it. They basically make them seem like they're AI. And I kind of don't like that. But it does give us information, and he starts repeating things, and Crowley is using that information to figure out the fact that there's a angel tablet or a demon tablet. They have one angel or demon tablet, and they figure out that there's another one. An angel tablet, I think, is the one they figure out. You know what? It's a 50-50 chance that I'm right. And if I'm wrong, just let me know. And Samandriel, as soon as Cass like saves him, we find out that Naomi is in Cass's head, and immediately just has him kill Samandriel because he knows too much. And Cass is basically being controlled, and he does it, and then he lies about why he does it, and it sucks. Next, we got our girl Charlie back, And this is also, once again, a fae episode, but it's totally different than the first one. And this is a fairy whose real magic is being used by LARPers who are causing legitimate chaos. And Charlie is super into her because Charlie's, like I said, a lesbian. And so Charlie and the fairy get together in this episode, and then the fairy gets to go back home. And we see, like I said, Charlie again. And then she's like, "Great, now I have to leave again. Thanks, boys. Love you, but goodbye. Please leave me alone." Um, Next we've got another time traveling episode. Surprise, surprise, you can time travel. However, this one is different because instead of one of the boys going back in time, someone comes through time for the boys, and it is their grandfather, Henry Winchester. So their dad's dad. Here's what I really like about this episode where we meet his grandfather. We also get Abaddon, who is terrifying, but there's some, storyline filled out, which is that their grandfather was not a deadbeat dad. He literally gets trapped in time, and since he never goes back, they realize it's because he dies. Oh, I'm laughing. Sorry. There's someone who, like, I'm reading a user note on this episode, and it says, "Personally, though, I think the time travel thing is getting overdone, though." I just find that funny because, yeah, I mean, this is the fifth time travel situation we have going on. And it brings Abaddon, which is a super demon, out. I don't know if Abaddon's a prince of hell, but she's like up in that upper echelon of the demon society, whereas Crowley doesn't necessarily have that much power naturally. And that's something to keep in mind. Sam Dean's grandfather, Henry, we find out, is a man of letters, which is basically like this super dope society of spies, but they're all well versed and trained in magic and lore. So it's like a hunter who went to Ivy League versus a hunter who learned on the job type situation. And we also find out that they have a bunker, which, by the way, has wonderful meals such as, beef jerky, 3 Reese's, and a beer, especially if you haven't, restocked it since the 50s. We find out that Henry, who's trying to get away with this box or something that Abaddon, the demon, is trying to get, she has taken over the secretary, the secretary's body of the Men of Letters, and basically slaughters everyone except him because he was able to get away. And then she just gets stuck in his time portal with him, and they both come out. And she comes out, I think, a little bit later. So they meet, and he's trying to see his son, but obviously John is dead. So the next Winchesters are who Henry's spell brings him to, and he gets to learn that that he's in the year what 2013 at this point, maybe later. Um, but he realizes he's got grandchildren. He realizes that if his son grew up without a father, that means he must not have gone home, which means he knows he's going to die on this mission. They tell him about Abaddon. They get to learn about the Men of Letters. They get the bunker. They find out that no other Men of Letters has survived except one guy. I don't know if we know about the one guy at this point. Um, and yeah, now we've got our new big bad for season 8, which is Abaddon. And the next episode is Everybody Hates Hitler. And this is where Sam and Dean are fighting Nazis. Because why wouldn't you be? Do I agree that like everybody hates Hitler? If you're a good person, then yeah, everybody should hate Hitler. But what a weird left field, like they watched Marvel and they watched Captain America and they thought, yeah, we could bring Hitler into our stuff too. It's just a weird thing to choose. We do get the Golem and his keeper, Aaron, which is played by Adam Rose, who I watch his videos online sometimes. And they're fighting the Nazis as well. And those two make an excellent pair. And I'm always very confused why, yet again, this is a pair of characters that never come back. Never come back. But they're fighting Nazi necromancers. I think it's the Thule at this point. I'm not sure if it's the Thule or if it's the Thule later. And I just want to know from a me standpoint, um, is that spelled the same as the backpacks, the Thule backpacks? Because I used to pronounce it Thule, and then someone was like, it's pronounced Thule. So, how do they feel about in this world being synonymous with Nazis? Just throwing that out there. Anyway, it's an okay episode. I enjoy the lore. Um, but you know what? Actually, I have no problem with this episode. It's fine. It's weird. It's out there. What I have a problem with is the later Nazi episodes that we get, because at that point I'm like, what is this? What is going on right now? Because those ones get a little bananas. We'll talk about that later then. I'll keep my annoyance to then. Um Kevin in the next episode has figured out how to close the gates of hell, and he is like, "Hey, you got to do three things. First thing you got to do, you got to bathe the blood of a hellhound." I don't know if you remember, but you really can't see hellhounds unless you're wearing something special glasses that are like dipped in holy water. And also, if you remember, our beautiful, lovely, sweet little Deanie Dino was killed by a hellhound couple seasons back. What, season 3? Yeah. So he not a fan. Um, they're out on this ranch where there were obviously lots of crossroads deals that took place. Everyone's dying. Hellhounds are afoot, and Dean fails to kill the hellhound and be covered in the blood, and Sam does it. And at that point, that means Sam has to do all of the tasks, and it means that Sam is going to have to be who basically does the spell to close the gates of hell. Um, and Dean didn't want that. He didn't want to sacrifice Sam, obviously. Remember the Titans, episode 16? Super weird and off the cuff. I really feel like season 8 said, hey, we don't really know where we're going, and we're going to test out things and see what you like. We're going to see what sticks. And I don't dislike this episode, but I don't dislike this episode purely because I love Greek mythology so much. So this is the Prometheus episode. The boys literally fight Zeus at this point and win pretty quickly. It's just, come on. Come on. Yeah, I love it. Artemis is there. Zeus is there. Prometheus is there. Now, I am, like I said, a Greek mythology person. So when this episode first starts and Prometheus is like on the ground, I was wondering what is this one going to be? You know, ghost, zombie, because he gets up and just walks away. And then if you watch it again and you realize that like the birds are eating at him, and I'm like, oh, that's very good, like on the spot for Greek mythology. If you're unaware, Prometheus is a god. And when Zeus was throwing one of his many hissy fits, he took fire away from us and humanity was dying. And Prometheus gave us fire back so that we could cook and eat and live. And Zeus throws another hissy fit and is like, how dare you? How dare you? I wanted to watch them suffer because I'm a monster. And um, curses Prometheus to have to roll a boulder up a hill for all of eternity while eagles eat his liver every single day for the rest of forever. He just forever. And it just shows that Zeus is a little bitch. Just saying. Anyway, it's a cool episode if you're someone who loves Greek mythology, but if you're looking for supernatural stuff, I feel like it kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say it hits the mark necessarily. Sam and Dean in the next episode are looking for the angel tablet, and Cass and Meg are helping to do that. So I believe this is where Cass is like, the angel tablet will help me fix heaven. And then the hell tablet closes hell, so no more demons at all anymore. And the angel tablet, you know, is going to help us fix heaven, and then everything will be okay. And so Sam and Dean are more focused on the demon tablet situation that they already have that Kevin has translated. And I believe this is around the time when we learn about Metatron, who is the scribe of God who wrote the tablets. Um, Next episode is where we meet all the children hunters. And by not people who hunt children, but children who are hunters. And we find out that they're being taught by um, this one guy who's like, yeah, they go to school, but then I teach them and we hunt on the side. And then you find out that that guy is also the bad guy. Excellent. The next episode is Taxi Driver. It's episode 19. And they need to rescue an innocent soul from hell and deliver it to heaven as the second out of the 3 tasks. And so, in order to do that, the boys, I believe the person they choose to rescue is Bobby. And so, you know, they go into hell. They find Bobby. He doesn't feel like he deserves it, but they figure it out and he goes to heaven. Moving on. We have episode 20, Pac Man Fever. It's another Charlie episode. Sam is pretty weak, so Dean and Charlie go out on a hunt. Charlie gets to be FBI again. It's adorable. We see Dean really trying to be supportive of Sam, doesn't want to lose him. We're back to the old brotherly love that we have there. I do believe we've also lost Benny at this point, and this is where Sam finally is just like, Benny saved my life, or, you know. Our next episode is Clip Show, which it's called Clip Show because even though it doesn't do the normal format of like a sitcom where you only see pieces of the show that's already happened, Crowley is killing people that Sam and Dean have already saved. So we see little bits of like when we save them and what we save them from. And Crowley is just losing his, mind because Sam and Dean are trying to close the gates of hell. And on the other hand, we've got Cass and Metatron who have the angel tablet, and they're trying to complete those tasks because Cass believes it will save heaven. And since there was just that war with Raphael, and then Cass feels really bad because he got possessed by the Leviathan, or he wasn't possessed, but he possessed a whole bunch of souls. He got too powerful, and then the Leviathan came out, and he feels really bad about all of that. And so um, they go, and I believe the first task is the Nephilim, which is bananas to me that hurting the Nephilim is the first task and that it's so easy. I think they even accomplish it off camera when later we find out just how powerful Nephilim are, how big of a deal they are, why they're not allowed. So this grown woman is totally fine. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. Um, and Sam is getting like he is weak, y'all. He is sick. And um and he's getting close though to finishing. They need to cure a demon. And then lo and behold, in a bunker, they find a video of an old man of letters who is a priest or a preacher, or he's just at the man of letters place curing a demon. And he loses a whole bunch of them, but he's able to cure one after like 8 hours. And they're like, I guess that's the plan then. And then bada bing, bada boom, we're into the season finale, which is Sacrifice. And Sam and Dean capture Crowley to finish the trials and to close the gates of hell. They want to cure Crowley. And Cass and Metatron continue to try to close the gates of heaven. And then Sam and Dean both realize that Sam is going to die if he closes the gates of hell. It will kill him. And Dean, of course, is like, you can't do it. You can't do it. Let's like stop. And Sam's like, I have to. It'll save so many lives. And um, obviously he doesn't make it. And here's what's messed up is that Cass and Metatron do complete their tasks. And they complete the tasks because Metatron steals Cass's grace and like pushes him out. So now Cass is human. And then all of a sudden, you see like it's the end of the episode. Dean is trying to save Sam. Crowley was not made human, but was made so close to human that he's got like a problem now, which is wonderful. And Sam is dying. Like he cannot hold the power anymore. It's basically a bomb. Here we've got Metatron hurts Cass, puts him down to earth, takes his grace, completes the angel tablet, and this completion closes heaven. Nothing can get in. The angels are all expelled. Metatron's the only one who can be in heaven. And it's just this surreal moment of like all these bolts of light. And they're like, what is that? And he's like, I think it's Cass who says it. He goes, it's the angels. They've been cast out of heaven. All of them. It's bananas. And angels have to ask to be invited into a body, which means they're just floating around until someone says yes to them. So that's how we're starting season 9. I'm going to take one quick break because I got to change that battery, and I'll be right back with you. Okay. Now we're on to season 9. So in case you forgot, Sam about to die. Dean taking him to the hospital. Then Dean, out of a moment of desperation, makes a prayer. And now he's also let the angels know where he is. And the angels are peeved because they've all been cast out of heaven. So any of them with the body are coming and they want to kill Dean. But one guy is like, no, I'll help you because I'm trying to redeem myself because I'm secretly not going to be a good guy, but I'm trying to be a good guy right in this moment. And Dean doesn't know any of this. Obviously, that's inner monologue that we find out later. The guy says he's Ezekiel. He is not. He's Gadriel. Gadriel. And so Dean is like, cool, Ezekiel. And he talks to Cass. Cass is human. And Cass is like, yeah, Ezekiel's a great soldier. If he says he'll help you, I would trust him. And we would trust Ezekiel, right? But this is not Ezekiel. So Dean figures out a way to trick Sam into accepting the angel into his body so he stays alive, which the whole time Death is there and he's like, come on, Sam, it's time to go. And Sam's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. Because Sam, at the very least, is always like, yeah, if it's time to go, it's time to go. And then Dean obviously does his Dean thing, gets Sam to stay around. Gadriel, pretending to be Ezekiel, is in Sam's body. Sam is completely unaware. Cass, like I said, is human. He is hiding from any angel because they're all super peeved with him. Luckily, angels can't find him because he's human, so it's a little harder for them to like pinpoint where he is. Metatron is just chilling in heaven. He has the whole place to himself because everyone who was up there is kicked out, and no one can get in. Which also means that people who die just get stuck in the veil, which apparently is different than purgatory. And then Sam and Dean are talking to Kevin, and they're like, hey, we've got Crowley. He's still hostage. He's in our trunk. We're trying to make him human, you know? And Abaddon, who I'm sorry, was not killed in the last season. She just smoked off and disappeared. Abaddon's like, I'm going to kill you guys. You know, you shot me with a crazy bullet. You chopped my head off. Then you sewed me back together. You're punishing me, and I hate you. I'm very powerful, and I'm going to kill you. And that's how that goes. Obviously, she doesn't win, but she tries. And Sam and Dean find Cass. And then we also are introduced to Bartholomew, who is very anti-Cass. He is chief of the Anti-Cass Association. And so they have to fight an angel, obviously, because they're trying to destroy Cass. Cass is human, so he doesn't have any skills whatsoever. Can't fly, can't do anything, no healing. It's a bummer. And then we're moving on to a ridiculous episode. Episode 4 of season 9 is Slumber Party. It felt to me like it was an attempt at a possible spin-off show that just never happens because the guys are in the bunker and they let the Wicked Witch out from the Wizard of Oz, from some weird time temporal trap that she's in. And then Dorothy is back and she's fighting it too. Charlie is there. Charlie is interested in Dorothy, and then Dorothy invites her to go back to Oz after they are able to kill the Wicked Witch. It's all just a little bit cheesy to me. And I was like, oh, are they trying to give Charlie her own spin-off show? Charlie's cool. Maybe that could work. But is the spin-off show Charlie and Oz? I don't know. It just didn't feel very genuine. Also, Charlie dies in this episode, and Dean gets Gadriel to bring him back to life via Sam. And Gadriel's like, Sam's gonna figure out I'm here, dude, if you keep like trying to get me to help. He's like, please, you have to, you have to. So he saves Charlie. Charlie does choose to go back to Oz with Dorothy, and then the doors close. And I'm just like, is that what? Okay. You just kind of have to move on and go, all right, is what it is. We find out that L. Frank Baum is Dorothy's father and was a man of letters and just used her stories to write the books, kind of as manuals, but also as like remembrance because he thought his daughter was gone, but she wasn't. She was just stuck in a weird time thing. Um, the next episode is probably one of my favorites, especially for the later seasons. Definitely my favorite of season 9, I believe. And it is when Dean gets turned into someone who can understand all animals. But he's most closely related to a dog. And it's adorable. You know, the dog and him communicate. And obviously they figure it out. I think my favorite though, has to be Dean yelling at a pigeon as if he's a dog. It's like, hey, hey, you, hey, you, hey, you, hey, you. And I was just like, oh my God, that is absolutely a dog. And then the pigeon being, I think, a New Yorker and completely wisecracking me like, I can't wait to shit on your car later. You know, it's just peak comedy, in my opinion. I thought it was really cute. And then when Dean was like, when the dog is going to tell Dean what dog's true purpose on earth is, and then he can't speak anymore. And I was like, ah, oh my goodness. It's so cute and I enjoy it. Next, we've got, the boys teaming up with Crowley. Crowley is straight up addicted to human blood at this point because it makes him feel things. I think that's really important because at one point, Crowley yells at Sam and Dean and he goes, do you even know how it feels to be human? And Sam and Dean are just like, what the hell are you talking about? Of course we do. We are humans. It's really funny. And this is really where we start enjoying Crowley. Um, we find out that Dean went to a boys' home for a little bit of time and that John basically let him sit there because he was mad at him, which is horrible parenting. Not sending your kid to a boys' home if they need that, but just choosing to leave your kid somewhere because you're mad at them. Like, don't throw a temper tantrum. You're an adult, okay? But I think we all know that John is not the ideal parent. So we find out that this boys' home is somewhere that Dean was for a little while and that he was incredibly happy there. And that the only reason he leaves the boys' home is not to be with his dad, but because he doesn't want to leave Sam. And it's really sweet and it really reignites the bond that Sam and Dean have, especially in our eyes, because they've been fighting for like the last 2 seasons. And this is the first season where they're kind of coming together again. And I think that's really good. Um, We also get another Jodie episode. I absolutely adore her. So I'm always happy when she's in an episode. And this is the Chastity Group one, which is also kind of adorable because this is the one where Dean gets to hook up with his dream woman, the porn star from Casa Erotica. And it's just kind of silly. The chastity thing, I think, is a pagan god or something like that. Um, Regardless, silly. She only attacks people when they break their vows of chastity, which, like shouldn't be a thing. Obviously, I'm not a proponent of like sleeping around because I do think there's an emotional component to sex. And I think if you're saying there's not, you're kind of having to convince yourself that there's not. There can be emotional components to sex. There is an emotional component to sex. And if you choose to ignore that emotional component, maybe you're good at it, maybe you're not, but it may not be healthy for you all the way around. However, I don't agree with chastity. Like, sex is great, sex is healthy, sex is very, like, I would say human, but it's not just human, it's everything. Everything on the planet does it. So I don't appreciate story like chastity and the myth of virginity and all of that stuff as if it's important in any way because that's not important. What's important is honoring your body and your feelings and however you can handle that. Like for me, I'm very emotional, especially with sex things. So like I don't throw my cat around. I don't, I don't have sex with random people. I've never had a one night stand. I have never been someone who could just allow that. But I know people who are that way, where sex is emotional to them, but not in a way that really makes them feel bad or changes or emotionally attached or anything like that. And I think that's healthy and wonderful. Do what's best for you and your body. Virginity is bullshit. Okay. It's a myth. Having sex for the very first time is obviously very important. And I hope it happens to whoever I'm talking to in a positive and wonderful way. But if your problem is that you're no longer a virgin, or if you ever care about that, then recognize that that never has mattered. It never has mattered. Virginity is a way for the patriarchy to control a woman. Let it go. Moving on. Yeah, so Sheriff Jody's there. It's lovely. Plus we get to see the Casa Radica porn star who's adorable. The angels are fighting each other, and this is also where Cass finds out that Ezekiel was killed in the war, and so he was never on Earth. So whoever's in Sam's body is not Ezekiel. We already know it's Gadriel. We're moving on. Um, the next episode, we've got Crowley being asked by Sam and Dean, like, can you help us, please? And this is really the season where Crowley starts being an ally more than not. He's definitely skeevy, but he's still a pal. And Crowley is just like, I guess if I have to, which is kind of funny to me. And they want to get him out of Sam's body. But now Gadriel is mad that they're trying to get rid of him because Gadriel is a rogue angel and he doesn't know what he's going to do if like he's kicked out or where he would go. So it's a problem for him. And then they realize that what they need to do, of course, is they need to find the first blade, which is a dope looking blade. It's like a jawbone of an animal. And it's Cain's. And we find out that Cain is basically, I mean, we know who Cain and Abel is in the Bible. If you're someone who's never ever read the Bible or heard those Bible stories, wow. I did grow up in the South, so that shit's indoctrinated in me. But Cain and Abel were the sons of Adam and Eve, who are allegedly the first humans. At least they're the first humans in the Bible stories. And Cain and Abel are brothers and they're fighting, and then Cain kills Abel and he becomes the world's first murderer. And that's a problem. And so they're trying to find the very first blade. So the first blade that ever killed another human in the world, which they find out is actually in the hands of Cain, who's still alive because he's cursed to continue to be alive. He's immortal and he's kind of like a demon, but he's not. I don't really know how to describe him. He's cursed, is how I'll put it. And if you've seen Lucifer, there's some interesting ties through that show. And also, it's nice to see Cain again this way. And I'll just leave it there. I'll probably add stuff when I talk about Lucifer. Okay. So next episode, we kind of take a reprieve from all the angel infighting and the Cain and Abel and the biblicalness of it all. And we get to see our buddy Garth. Except our buddy Garth has been turned into a werewolf and has a werewolf family. And then we actually find out that there's a whole, family of werewolves and they're all incredibly well mannered. They're civil, except they're not. And then you find out, oh, who's not? It's the stepmom, blah, 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 evil stepmom, family of werewolves. They all get to live. We let Garth live. It's adorable. I'm also kind of sad because I like Garth and I just knew as soon as he was a werewolf, we wouldn't see him as much because now he's technically a monster. But I'm really glad that both Sam and Dean don't even try to kill him. They decide, okay, you're good, which is great. Oh, my dear, darling, sweet listeners, watchers, my babes, it's time for one of my absolute favorite characters to appear. Miss Donna. What is her last name? Donna Hanscom? Uh, is she one of my favorites? Oh, you betcha. You betcha she is. Her and Jody Mills. I love when they're friends. I love it so much. They're not friends yet, but as soon as you see Donna, you just love her. She's that Midwest, just sweet as pie, badass that I would love to hug her, and I would love for her to cook with me, and I would love to go hunting with her, normal hunting, and I would love to do anything. I want her to be my best friend. She's great. And when her and Jody get together, nothing could make me happier. And literally every single time she would pop up on the screen, I would just go, "Oh, you betcha. You betcha." I love it. I love it so much, and she's wonderful. And so she's introduced to us via this like Sam and Dean are on uh mission, and she kind of gets in the way a little bit, and then they see her later in this episode. They see her later, and she's at this health retreat that she got into, where she's supposed to lose a whole bunch of weight, and they're like, "Don't you think it's weird that you lost 10 pounds in a day?" And she's like, "No, I don't want to look into it because my ex-husband Doug just left me last year. He said that I love cookie dough ice cream more than him." And it just like breaks your heart because what a hurtful thing to say. I have an ex. I have an ex who, and I'm a beautiful woman. And if you got a problem with me saying that, like just get off of the cast right now because I'm not going to change how I feel about myself or be less confident to make anyone feel better. I'm a beautiful woman, and that's important for me to know because I didn't know that for a very long time. And if you'll notice, my hair is a little bit weird because right here, oh, what a weird little haircut. It's because I've had bangs. For over a decade, I had bangs because my first ex, my first boyfriend, who's now my ex and has been for a long time. So I guess I had bangs for about 12 years. Um, Once he made a joke that I had a 5 head and not a 4 head. Mean as hell, destroyed my confidence, and I have had bangs ever since up until last year when my very long term relationship ended. And you know how when a long term relationship ends and you either try to work on yourself or if you're emotional and you maybe have a breakdown like I thought I would, and you cut all your hair off or you dye your hair and you make some interesting decisions that maybe don't make you feel so good about yourself later. And I'm coming from a place where I'm at least healed enough and I'm so very proud of myself where I thought I really love my long hair. My long hair makes me feel very feminine and very beautiful. I don't want to cut it, but I am losing my mind and I need that jolt of change. And you know what I did was I didn't get the immediate satisfaction of anything. I chose not to do that. I did not pick up a single drink when I got dumped because I didn't want to be emotional and inebriated. I don't smoke um, marijuana because I my body just doesn't handle it well. I've never done anything illegal. So I'm going through this horrible mess. It's incredibly emotional. I don't know how I survived it. And I chose to not even do the standard trope of huge breakup, changing my look, cutting all my hair off, dyeing it, which I have done before, not because of a breakup, but because of a huge shift in my life. And then I remembered how long it took me to grow my hair back and how long it took for my hair to be healthy again after I had a breakdown, cut all my hair off, and went platinum blonde by myself in my bathroom in a single day. My hair literally broke off down the middle. It was so burnt because I don't have the skills. It's and I remembered that and I thought, do I really want to do that to myself again? Do I want my outward appearance to show my inner feelings of being distraught and upset? And I thought, no, I want to keep my long hair because it makes me feel beautiful and it makes me feel feminine, but I need a change. And then I thought about my bangs and I loved my bangs. I look great with bangs. Super, like, I look hot, right? A little bit more severe, a little less friendly. Um, Definitely less Farrah Fawcett than how I've been looking. And I thought, I'm going to finally let them grow out because I have tried in the last 12 years to let my bangs grow out and I couldn't do it because I'd start to see my forehead or I'd get a blemish and I'd feel so self-conscious that I'd cut them again and cover it up so that no one could know. And I have felt that way in the last year. I have absolutely felt that way. And instead of allowing myself to be overtaken by that lack of self esteem and that lack of self confidence, and hearing my ex's voice in my head saying that I have a 5 head and not a 4 head, I thought, I will endure this because I'm already enduring this horrible heartbreak. I can endure this, and I'm going to feel good about the fact that I am strong enough to endure growing my bangs out. And if you can't understand how that feels strong at all, then maybe this doesn't resonate with you. But it certainly makes me feel very proud every time I see how ridiculous my hair looks, because my bangs are just in a weird spot. They're in a weird spot. This is about a year's worth of growth, maybe a little less. And I think they look really ridiculous. And I get frustrated immediately and I feel silly. And a lot of times I like pin my hair back. And then I think, I'm doing this because I love myself, because I'm no longer going to let how someone else talks to me, especially in a romantic partnership, dictate how I choose to live and look and feel about myself. And so, to tie that back in, when Donna says that Doug told her that she likes cookie doughs more than her, and this woman is not a big woman. Even if she was, that wouldn't have been an okay thing to say. And I just thought, nah, I feel really bad for her because I know how hard it is to keep your self confidence up when someone that you love or that loves you allegedly says something mean like that. So take it from me. Let your bangs grow out and don't cut your hair off. Don't don't show outward the piece of you that's breaking inward. Unless you actually wanted to cut your hair. Don't don't make those big decisions. Because when I first did it and I cut my hair off to here and I was platinum blonde and I did look cute, but I also looked a little nuts. And I can look at my pictures from the last 4 years, or about the 3 years in between the last year and a half, where my hair was growing back and I could see it wasn't so healthy and so it doesn't look very good. And now I see my hair and I'm very happy with it. It's pretty and it's long, and I'm doing what I can with it. And now I don't have bangs and I haven't seen my forehead in 11 years last year when I started this. So when Donna said that and she looked really ashamed and she's so happy to be at this weight loss facility, I just really felt that kinship. And I think that's that moment I fell in love with her. And the fact that she becomes a repeat character, like, you betcha I'm happy about that. Couldn't be more thrilled. So they end up fighting this fat sucking monster, which honestly, I do wish I could, call one of those up because I do got a little bit of a belly because, I like snacking and is what it is. Um, Regardless, the main lady is a good guy and her brother is a bad guy. I don't remember what they're called, but they're like Peruvian fat suckers, basically. And that's kind of silly, but I don't know. The concept sounded kind of appealing to me. So I was like, oh, whatever. And the sister and her husband are running this wellness retreat, basically, where they say, oh, you'll lose weight by just doing all of these things. And they do incorporate some healthy things in there, but basically, she's just eating their fat while they're passed out. And it's kind of silly, but Donna's there. So it's great. And she does kind of get in the way. She doesn't find out about monsters at this junction. Um, Back to less fun news. Kevin is gone, right? Like, he's passed away, and he shows back up to try to get Sam and Dean to help him find his mother because he's stuck in the veil since heaven is closed, and he's like, my mom's alive. Please go find her. She has to be. And they do. And that woman like kicks and screams and wins her way out and like fights. And she's awesome. And then she takes the object that Kevin is attached to and she leaves. Next one. Next episode is the Thin Man episode. It's stupid. It's the Ghost Facers again. And I don't know. It's silly and it's stupid. And it's like, why do these guys keep appearing? But also, I'm fine every time I see them. But the Facers break up in this episode. And it's really sad. And it's, a parallel to how Sam and Dean are behaving because, Sam is really pissed at Dean for allowing him to live because Sam was fine with dying. And Dean is never fine with Sam dying. And I think that that's really indicative of how they are as characters because Sam is always trying to be like, just leave me alone. Who cares if I die, whatever. And Dean is just like, I'll never let you die. And, maybe you don't let me die. And Sam's like, is what it is, I guess. So sometimes I get really frustrated with Sam because he's always like, well, you died, so I went and lived my life. And I forget that that is the healthy way to deal with things. But if you know all the supernatural stuff is going on, like you should make a different kind of effort. What I will say is that at least he's the same way when it comes to his own life. He's not like, Dean, you should have saved me, dude. No, he's always like, well, I would have died. It's fine. And I appreciate the fact that at least he's not hypocritical. Okay, moving on. Sam and Dean looking for the first blade, and they find it. They meet Cain. He's super cool, you think? And Cain is like, you can't use that blade unless you get the mark. And I'm not hunting anymore. I'm done. I don't want to deal with it. Leave me alone. And then they're getting this blade to fight Abaddon because Abaddon's like HBIC. She's scary. And Cain is like, but I'll give you the Mark of Cain. And Dean is like, all right. And he's like, cool. Could kind of change who you are. And he's like, nah, I'll be fine. It's no big deal. Spoiler alert, it absolutely changes who he is. Like a lot. Like a scary amount. And Dean starts becoming like an amazing killer. Too much of an amazing killer. But whatever. No big deal. The next episode, he's trying to figure out how to deal with the effects of the Mark of Cain. And Sam starts like tracing Abaddon through all these violent murders that she's committing, like in a nunnery and just not being good. And then Metatron, who's incredibly bored, is like, hey, Cass, you know how I totally ruined your life? Why don't you help me out? Maybe I'll help you find your grace. And Cass is just like, how about you go fuck yourself? And season 9 is also when we get Alex. Now, Alex, I feel like doesn't pop up as much later in the show as like Donna and someone else will, but she is cool. She is someone who was kidnapped as a child by vampires and then raised as if the vampire woman is her mother. And she's obviously not her mother. But Jody takes her in. And it's the first time that we see that happen, where it's like Jody takes in a wayward girl, if you will, and Alex is now part of Jody's house and family, and I think that's really lovely. And it's not a highly rated episode, but it is where we start this trend of Jody picking up strays, basically, and I love it. Next episode, the lowest rated episode of the show. And I get it. It's Bloodlines. It's episode 20. Has nothing to do with anything else going on. It's just that Sam and Dean are in Chicago and they find out that the city is divided by basically mobs of two different clans of monsters, and it's werewolves versus shapeshifters. They were going to make this a show and everyone hated it, so it doesn't become a show. And I get it because you watch it and you feel like, oh, they're trying to once again just set up a different show, a spinoff. That's the word I've been trying to say. And it's just lackluster and no one cares. It's very Capulets, Montagues, but with no one caring about any of the stakes, you know? So I'm just going to move on. It's got a 5.8, lowest rated episode of the series. Okay. So I finally remembered Abaddon is trying to make a deal with like Crowley to stop the Winchesters. Abaddon is a knight of hell. I forget. Cain explains this. She's a knight of hell, and I think a knight of hell is more powerful than a prince of hell. If you're trying to remember what a prince of hell was, maybe it's less powerful than a prince of hell. Prince of Hell is Azazel. It's the yellow-eyed demons that Lucifer made. And Cain made the Knights of Hell. And since Cain is not as strong as Lucifer, I'm going to assume that it goes Prince of Hell, Knight of Hell, Crowley. So Abaddon needs to be killed by the first blade, and I think that's wise because Cain made them. So Cain killed them all. He thought he killed Abaddon. She had gotten away, and he didn't realize that. And that's why he allows Dino to take the mark, and he's like, you need to kill me. I'm going to ignore the order that these events happen in terms of the actual episodes because I'm going to forget if something happens like this. For the rest of the season, it's just like this. Cain goes a little bit nuts and he starts killing anyone that is part of his bloodline, every like fifth person or something like that, to bring it down by 10% because he realized that his bloodline tends to be criminals. They tend to be murderers, bad people. And so he's taking out, I believe it's a fifth of them. And that's where Dean is like, okay, we're going to have to take care of this. But keep in mind that Dean's mark and the blade make him want to kill. And so he's starting to get way, way more intense and killy. And then we also have the angels that are committing suicide, and they're saying that it's for Castiel. We do find that they are just being manipulated by Metatron, I believe. But Cass is like not on board with it. And I'm very disappointed in this episode because we lose Tessa, the Reaper. I think this is also the episode where I realized that Reapers are angels. Just like a Cupid is an angel. Reapers are angels. But we lose Tessa. She kills herself and she says it's in the name of shit. Yeah, of Cass. Forgot that for a second. I'm zoning out. I was gonna film the last part of this today, but I just don't think I can. I don't think I can do more than the 5 seasons of filming in a day. Yeah, so we lose Gadriel, we get rid of Abaddon. Cass gets his grace back while he's trying to manipulate Metatron. I think we lose Metatron's grace, or I don't think Cass gets his grace back yet. I think he steals some grace. And Dean is like overtaken by his mark. And that's how it ends. He gets rid of Cain. He's able to kill Cain, but he's black-eyed demon. He thinks like Crowley and Sam are specifically Sam thinks Dean's dead and they put him in Dean's bed and Crowley is sitting there and Crowley's like talking at the end of the season. And Crowley's basically like, I know everyone thinks you're dead, but I'm perfectly aware that the Mark of Cain won't let you die. And you're just like, oh, and then they're both gone and that's the end of the season. All right, season 10, let's run through this. Season 10. Honestly, I feel like I could have done 15 episodes of Supernatural and just done very long episodes for each season instead of speeding through it like I did with season 6. I think that was a full hour is just season 6. And keep in mind that these are all brand new to me. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to do things. There are some things that I know I want to do, like callback pieces that make you realize what the show is going to be if you're a fan of the show. But let me know how you feel. Do you want me to go slower or faster or what's the situation here? Let me know. So season 10, I find Crowley just absolutely adorable. He so desperately wants to be best friends with Dean and it's adorable. Dean is running around with Crowley. Dean's straight up a demon at this point. And Sam is trying to figure out what's going on and Cass is trying to figure out what to do because I'm pretty sure he stole Metatron's grace and he doesn't have his own grace yet. So it's basically like drinking an energy drink. And then when the energy drink is like leaving your system, you need another, like you jonesing, he doesn't actually have his own grace. So he can't keep up his angelic ways. He has to find his own grace or he has to keep killing angels to get grace. And then as we're moving forward, Crowley is enjoying being around Dean, but Dean is starting to get like way too aggressive. I also really enjoy the part where Dean is like singing Right Said Fred, which is I'm Too Sexy. And everyone else seems to hate it. And Dean, this is kind of like Dean's soulless arc, where he's a little bit of a bad guy. Um, and for um he gets a little out of hand even for like Crowley's sake. But we do run into like an offshoot character named Cole, and Cole wants to kill Dean because Dean killed Cole's father. But since Dean's basically in his soulless era, he's like, "Oh, I don't give a shit. What are you gonna do about it? Huh?" And Cole was like, "You're a monster." Instead of Dean being like, "Your dad was a monster and I had to do what I had to do because he was possessed." So we meet Cole. Cole lets Sam go, or Sam gets away or whatever, and he pops up later, or he will pop up later. And then Dean is being so off the rails that Crowley is even now like trying to get Cass to help, where he's like, "Come on, like help." And Sam is also trying to get uh the Mark of Cain off of Dean. And that is basically like the goal of the first half of the season, I want to say. I think episode 3 is when he loses the Mark of Cain, but I can't fully remember. The next episode I really want to focus on is episode 5, fan fiction. This is my favorite episode, hands down. And it's only my favorite episode because I'm enjoying the show at this point, so I can remember all of all of the things. And so I'm really going to dive into this episode because this is the episode where it's that all girls school and they're doing Supernatural, the Chuck Shirley books, or the no, what is his name? I mean, it is Chuck, but I think he has a Carson Edlin or something like that is the his book. His Oh my goodness, I am having a hard time. His book name, his author, his pen name. Okay, so but it's the Supernatural books, and they're doing a play based off of them because they're super fans, and then they continue it after season 5, but there hasn't been any books because Chuck is gone, and it's adorable. It also makes me very emotional, and you get to see all of these like little Easter eggs and pieces, like the the mom in her white nightgown and the boys in their, little green jackets, and the driving the Impala, and the Azazel, and it's just a whole recap of the first 5 seasons, um, with them singing, like, "Carry On My Wayward Son," which is incredibly important. I would absolutely have added it to this episode if I was allowed to do something like that, but I'm not. And it's really nice to see the storyline again, and it's so silly and fun, and I freaking lost my mind at the very end of it when the editor shows up and it's Chuck, and he goes, "I think you did a great job." You know? And because she's like, "I know the second act can be a problem and everything," and that girl is so intense, and I just love her. Like, I know she's not a real person, but if she was a real person, like, that girl is going somewhere. No one should ever let you say that you're too much or extra or let your light dim. Like, you're passionate and you're smart and get it, you know? I loved that episode, and I do tear up during it as well. Like, when they're singing "Carry On," and I'm just like and I love when Cash shows up. I think this is one of the first times where they make the "gripped him from perdition" jokes, you know? Um, this is definitely where there's a lot of sexual subtext, which I just find hilarious, and, um, I think this is where we get Destiel, where they really make it more obvious because it's fan food, this episode. It's what would happen if a fan got to do a play like this, you know? Um, so the subtext between Dean and Cass is adorable. And it is, like I said, my favorite episode. It's actually a top rated episode too. It's a 9.4 out of 10. So that's pretty high up there. This is also the season where Jody and Donna meet up together for Hibbing 911. And it is a vampire episode. And it's they're at a sheriff's conference, and Donna's a sheriff and Jody's a sheriff. And so this is where they become friends. And Donna's just so sweet and so wonderful. and, Jody does not wanna deal with it at all, which is totally understandable, but Donna worms her way in, and at the end, Jody is like, "Yeah, we're gonna tell her about the, monsters," and they become friends, you know? It's together. It's togetherness at that point, and now Donna is like she's on the team. She's a hunter too, and I think that that's wonderful. Um, yeah, I just love it. And then right after that, then we get Claire present day, who is played by Catherine Newton, who's also adorable and beautiful and lovely. And we haven't seen Claire since she was little bitty. And Cass is basically like, I'm not your daddy, and then walks off. And Claire's in a group home. We find out that her mom has gone missing, or that she left her. Then her grandma died, and she's just basically left. And Cass feels really guilty, which he should, and it makes a lot of sense. And then they, you know, they're able to kind of have a little bit of a relationship, even though she wants nothing to do with him. And I really love how in the future Claire goes and is with Jody and Donna and Alex as well. Like, Donna doesn't live with them, but she's there. It's one of my favorite parts of that show is that, like, little offset of these wonderful little wayward girls, you know? Um, so very happy when we get Claire, and I love you can tell that she's a distressed teenager, a distressed woman because of her eyeliner being as, thick and muddied underneath. That is a clear sign that she is troubled and powerless. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, this is also where Claire's, like, surrogate friendly creepy guy that's helping her who goes to almost sell her, and Dean yeah, Dean definitely is still has the mark. He's just not a demon anymore, but he's still having a hard time balancing it. I'm remembering. And he kills everyone. And Claire gets really upset about it. And then in the next episode, she's trying to have Dean killed, or not trying to, but she's still mad because she doesn't understand that the other guy was basically selling her as a piece of a sexual favor to get rid of his debt. And, luckily, Claire comes to her senses at the end, and Dean beats him up and doesn't kill anybody, and she doesn't allow Dean to get hurt, and they move forward. And, I think that that's good. And then the next episode, we get our Charlie back. So Charlie's back from Oz, whatever that storyline is about is over. And, the problem is we see Charlie doing, like, something really messed up, and we're like, "What the hell?" And then we find out that while Charlie was in Oz, her personality got split in 2, and it's good Charlie and bad Charlie, or good Charlie and dark Charlie. And dark Charlie is, up to no good, and light Charlie is ridiculous because it's so over the top and cheesy. But I think my favorite line from that one is when they're sitting at the bar, and she's like, "I would have tried to, take her home and get her number. And now all I want to do is put her kids through college." And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. Um, you can't hurt bad Charlie because it'll also hurt good Charlie because they're still connected and they're able to get her back together. And we've got our Charlie back, which is wonderful. Now is when Kane starts being a problem. That's right. Okay. Sorry. Got to got it mixed up. Um, So they need to deal with Cain, and this is when Cain is doing that crap where he's, like, killing off of his bloodline, um, and they kind of have to put an end to that, which is rough on Dean because he's trying to not become a demon again. Um, season 10 is also where someone who we kind of meet at the end of season 9, but who's really prominent in season 10 just comes out in all of her glory, and that is Rowena. And then we find out that Rowena, who is this grand witch who's been, like, magically, handcuffed, from the Grand Coven, is Crowley's mother, and that she left him when he was a kid, and because she left him, he grows up to be a crummy dad and very abusive, and, he leaves his kid and, dies, and then his kid dies in a shipwreck, which I don't know if we know that yet. Regardless, we've got Rowena. In this first season, she sucks. Like, I can't stand her because she's a bad guy. She's not an anti-hero. She's just a villain. She's very manipulative. Crowley falls for it a lot, maybe too often in my opinion. Um, but she's still kind of charming, It's because she's so hot that and she's so powerful. Um, but Rowena ends up being one of my favorite characters. Again, she is a top 5 character for sure, especially if I'm not considering the, core 3. So towards the end of the season, Rowena's like, I need the Book of the Damned. I think that'll have information on how to get rid of the Mark of Cain. And Rowena gets the book. Charlie is who finds it. Then Charlie dies in the next episode, and Sam and Dean are very upset. I think Dean is mad at Sam, or Sam is mad at Dean about it. One of them is mad at each other because they feel like it's their fault because Charlie shouldn't have been there. And basically, everyone in the world was upset when Charlie died. And then Rowena has the book and she's like, hey, look, I can absolutely do this, but it says that something dark happens if you do this. So for this season finale, Death is there. He's basically warned, like, you cannot stop. Like, you cannot stop Dean. He has to keep the mark. You don't want to let whatever's in there out. And Rowena, on the other hand, is there with the Book of the Damned somewhere else doing the spell, letting it out. And then Death gets killed by the Winchesters, which is a complete surprise to everyone. Rowena completes the spell, and bada bing, bada boomsies, the Mark of Cain is removed. But the problem with the Mark of Cain being removed is that they just freed the darkness. We don't know what that means. You won't know what that means this episode, but basically it's you know, it's not a great choice. But, Sam needed to save Dean, even though Dean was saying no. Sam is finally there to do the dumb but heroic thing. Rowena is successful. Um, and that's basically it. We've lost Charlie at this point. Claire is, I believe, with Jody now. Dean no longer has the mark. We lose Death for the first time. So that's an interesting thing to happen. And we had already lost Tessa, which means we have already been introduced to Billy, the Reaper. And Billy is very by the book. Billy doesn't want to play around. She's not messing. She's not bringing the Winchesters back to life all the time. She doesn't appreciate that Death is allowing that. And so now that Death is gone, it's really interesting what will happen. And that is the summation for season 10, which I think I'm doing a terrible job, but for some reason I'm kind of completely blanking on a lot of the details of season 10. So I'm going to take a break and I will do 11 through 15 for the last little piece of the supernatural puzzle. And then I'll be doing another episode after that. So I look forward to doing that. And I thank you for listening. And I apologize that I'm kind of missing some pieces for season 10. Maybe we can talk about it. Someone can give a better summary. And in the meantime, goodbye, babes.